All right, today we're getting on a brand new series called Beyond Us. I'm so excited about today. This series, we're gonna go pretty deep, pretty fast. I know we're just gonna kind of jump in, but I'll say this. This series is really designed to help us think outside of ourselves, beyond ourselves. In a time of the year where it's very difficult to do that because of Thanksgiving and Christmas and all the things that are going on. And so today, I'll tell you, the way that we're gonna sort of arc this series, today's kind of the foundation of what we're gonna be talking about. And then we'll just sort of build on this over the next few weeks as we go. But I'll tell you, as I was thinking about this, I had a close friend text me recently a Bible story, and she was like, hey, I was thinking about this. She sent me the story, and I was like, oh my goodness. And I grew up with the Bible story that we're going to talk about, and I will say this, over the years, I've read it here and there, but I've never taken a deep dive in it. And so it was like Monday or Tuesday of this week, I was like looking at it, and I was like, this is exactly sort of the foundational sort of principle that I want us to spend time with today as we jump into the rest of what we're doing. So we're going to start with a statement, and then I'm going to spend time unpacking kind of where we go. And I'll say this, if you're here and not a follower of Jesus, I'm going to give you a caveat or a way out of this, but if you're here and you are, I would say this is like really foundational to our faith. And here's what I would say right out the gate, and that's this. Right, there's a difference, right? The difference between a person with faith, right, with faith, and a person who needs faith isn't really what they see, but it's how they see it, right? And here's what I mean by that, right? There's all sorts of things in your life that you're gonna look at and you're gonna see in different ways. How many of you have been keeping up with like the Paris thing over there? You see what happened? Like a group of somebody stole all that stuff from the museum. And it's all my TikTok feed now because Emily and I talk about this. She's fully invested to the point that that's what she's dressed like today. So my wife dressed like she was stealing stuff. So that's kind of fun. It was great. I love it. Best costume ever. And I looked at this, and this. There's a whole side of TikTok, I think it's fascinating, who are like, worst thing ever, this is so bad, da-da-da-da. And then there's a whole other side of TikTok, which I think is fascinating, who's like, how cool is this? You know what I mean? Like full Ocean's 11 mode, where they're going like, what is happening to this? Now, I love this. You can look at the exact same facts, this, and see things wildly, wildly different, right? And then when it comes to some of the most difficult parts of our life, we could say it this way, that many of us, we see those facts, and some of us see them through the eyes of faith, and some of us see it through the eyes of fear. And you see these two different things, and I'll just tell you, like, and you know this, your fear is deeply informed by your life experience, where you came from, what you've done, what you've been a part of, what your upbringing was like. But it's certainly a lens by which you see the world. And then some people, and you know this, and they frustrate each other, they kind of frustrate each other. Some people see all the circumstances of their life, and they see it through the eyes of faith, and it changes everything about the way they see it. And those two people, when they interact, you know this, they don't say it out loud, but they're a little bit frustrated with each other. And the reason that they're frustrated with each other is because the people who see things out of fear, and you know this, have a reason for the way they see it. Everybody that you meet, right, has a reason and a story for the ways that they see the world. And then the people who have faith on this, there's the other side. It's like, I wish you could just see it differently, right? And I put it in my notes and said it this way, that faith and fear, ultimately, they see the same facts, but they envision wildly different futures. And when you think about this, I would say for people that are followers of Jesus, people who are Christians, I think it is so important that we monitor how we envision the future based off of who God is. And if you're here and you're not a follower of Jesus, I would say this. Most of the time, and I want to do this like right out the gate, most of the time, people like me with like a microphone on, they stand, and they open the Bible, and they talk about this stuff. Oftentimes it feels like they disregard all of the evidence that you have around fear and a distant God if he's up there, or a God who may or may not exist, and if a good God could, then a good God should do all the things I think a good God should do, all that kind of stuff. And you feel like if he's up there, he should change things. I totally get that, but I would also say this. Maybe no one said this out loud to you, but there's nowhere in the Bible that talks about a God who removes all of the pain all at once and all of the evil all at once in the world like that in our daily life. In fact, as you look through the Old Testament and as you look through the New Testament, pain and difficulty is a thread that runs through all of it. And when it comes to this, I would say this, what people do in both of those sort of sections of the Bible is they see God in very specific and distinct ways, and they interact with God in those ways. Now, I'm going to say one last thing. This is my caveat, and then we're going to jump into the text in a second. And that's this. Immediately, there's a segment of the room, which I totally get this, and I would probably be like this too, who would say, I know where he's going with this, and you immediately stopped listening and high five, pounded, I got you. I know you're thinking that, right? But I'm going to ask you if you would to give me a few minutes to talk about it. And then there's a segment of the room on the other side who's been like, I've been a follower of Jesus for a long time. I get that I'm supposed to have faith and believe the impossible, all these kinds of things. Thank you so much. I get that too. And I got you too. So stop. And I want you to listen too. And for the next few minutes, what we're going to do is we're going to look at an area of the Bible that outlines, I think, what the perspective of people who are followers of Jesus should have at a baseline and then build from. Now, to do that, we're going to look at a group of people that a lot of the Old Testament's about, a group of people called the Israelites, and fascinating stories. I mean, honestly, if you've never read the Old Testament, it is like Game of Thrones in so many different ways. I mean, it's just ups and downs and violence, and everybody's dying, and he slept with who, like all that kind of stuff. Like it is a very difficult thing to read as you read through it. And you look at all this stuff and you go like, where is God in the midst of all of those things, right? And what happens is God makes this promise to a person, not even just a group of people, a person, centuries before everything that we're about to read. And the promise was that one day this group of people would have an area of the world, they'd have land, right? And that he was going to miraculously open these doors for them to have it. And that happened all the way back in like Genesis chapter 12. So if you like Bible, Genesis, first book of the Bible, and then you move on. And as you move on, it's the story of how they continue to sort of mess it up and then experience pain. And it's almost like a heartbeat sort of rhythm, like it's up and down all the way through. And so what happens, where we're going to pick up, is most of us have heard sort of the stories around this. Like you've heard the story of like the Red Sea, everything parts, they go through. You've heard like the freedom of this group of people out of slavery. And so this is where we're going to pick up today is like 2 years after they've come out of slavery. And they're sort of inching towards this promised land. And as they inch towards this promised land, they go and they, in full view of God's miraculous works, are trying to decide what to do next. And so the beautiful part about this is they're coming off of God doing miraculous things. And I'll just kind of show you a few of these. It's always fascinating, right? God has already shown himself to be powerful on their behalf. And let me show you what I mean by that. We're just going to go through a few of these stories. These are fun for you to read if you've never read them. All right, the covenant at Mount Sinai, when God makes this big promise, he tells them this. The golden calf that, forgives them for like betraying him in these ways and building an idol and these sort of things. Glory filling the tabernacle. I don't have time to like unpack this fully, but the power and the presence of God being so, not just distant, but tangible with these people, that it's like, there it is. There's his glory. He shows up in this way. Victory in specific wars, daily guidance and rest, and then it gets even more fun. Let me show you these. We're just getting started, right? Over here, you have these. He delivers them from slavery from Egypt, right? And not just like oh, look, now we're free, but like in this miraculous, beautiful way. He splits the Red Sea, and here's what I just feel this. If I saw water like get split, and then I walk through it, and I look back, and Michigan fan, I'm just kidding. No, like all of that, like, I'm just kidding. That's a terrible joke. I'm just kidding. OH. I know where my bread's buttered. I'm just kidding. All right, let me say, if I look back and they come crashing in, and I see God do miraculous things, I feel like I'm like, let's go. Like where you want to go? Can I dunk? I don't know. Can I do that now? Like, what's next? I'm following. They have this. Feeds them with manna while they're in the wilderness. Out of nowhere, food shows up for all of these people over and over and over again on a daily basis from God. Gave them water from a rock. That's kind of cool. And then guided them with a cloud and a pillar of fire to let them know where to go. And all of these are beyond natural. All of these are supernatural things. And yet, this group of people is just like you and me. Wildly human, up and down and all of the things, wildly human. So they get on the edge of the area that God had promised them. And this is how the story goes. It's so beautiful. So what they do is the leaders say, we're going to send in 12 spies, right? 12 spies to go see what's happening over here. Right? We're going to send in 12 spies to go in the land, see what's happening. And what they do is these aren't random 12 spies. Like they had these tribes that are all sort of come together to make up, this group of people, and they sort of selected ones, like whoever the most influential person is out of all these sorts of people groups, they come together, all these tribes come together. And they all gather and they go, hey, we're going to sneak in there, and we're going to get eyes on this land that it feels like God has promised us. And so they all go in, all 12 spies go in. And when they go in, it's so fascinating. In light of everything that we just talked about, they go in, and this was supposed to, don't miss this, this is supposed to be a mission to discover what God had already given them and already promised them. This was supposed to be a mission that they walk in and they look around and go, God's already said, this is ours. We don't have to be afraid. You almost look at each other and go, we don't have to be afraid. Why aren't we afraid? Do you see the water thing? It's kind of cool, you know? That Chick-fil-A sandwich, I'm like trying to, like, that's great. Even had American cheese on it, no pickle. I'm super happy about that. Like, he showed up, miraculous, 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 miraculous. And these 12 spies go in there, and then they see the size of the people. They go in there and they go, if we have to fight, I don't know how we're going to win. And so it was supposed to be not a fact-finding mission on how do we do this. It's supposed to be a fact-finding mission on look at God's goodness. It shifts and it turns to fear. So we're going to pick up in Numbers chapter 13. Here's what it says. Numbers chapter 13, we're in verse 27. So they come back to Moses, who's the leader of this group of people at the time. And they say this, we went into the land to which you sent us, and it does, in fact, flow with milk and honey. Here is its fruit. Like looking around going, it's pretty great. Like it is what it feels like God promises. The land is that. And then there's the but, and then it goes on and it says this, but the people who live there, they're powerful. And the cities are fortified and they're very large. And we even saw descendants of Anak there. Now I love this is kind of fun. Which would have been, and he's going to talk about it in a second, these would have been descendants, they were called like Nephilim, which would have been like, I don't know how to say this well, if angels and humans came together, you get Shaq. And you know, that's essentially like what comes, like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's what comes, all right? And so like, they're looking around going, he's like 8 feet tall. Where's Robin? Is Robin in here? Robin, stand up. Robin, just and it's like if I walked in and Robin's standing there, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, now I get it. Look, I'm one of these spies going, I mean, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I've seen him dunk, you know? Like, I don't know. But they look out and they're like, hey, like, I don't know how this is going to happen. Like, we look out, they're descendants of these miraculous sort of beings. And it goes on. And Caleb, and it says this, Caleb silences the people before Moses. They're all speaking up, they're going, look around, there's no way. And so Caleb, one of the 12 spies, right? He silenced the people before Moses. He said, we should go up, and he said, we should take possession of the land, for we can certainly do it. Which, you kind of look at Caleb, you go like, I mean, I don't know. Why do you think we can? Because I saw him do the Red Sea. I've seen him do the miraculous. I've seen him feed us. I've seen the forgiveness and the grace that he's given us when we like built an idol, even though he was tangibly showing up anyway. Right? I've seen it. And it goes on in verse 31, and it says this. It says, but the men who had gone up with him said this. They said, we can't. Can we just say this together? I love saying this out loud. It's always fun. Say it together. 1, 2, 3. We. Yeah, you feel weird saying it. Some of your parents didn't let you say it as a kid. I had a guitar teacher one time, and I was like, I can't play that. He goes, you were currently unable to. I was like, sounds like can't. You know what I mean? Like, it sounds like can't to me. Like you weren't even allowed to say it. They look around, they're like, we can't attack those people. They are stronger than we are, to which Caleb would have gone, yes. The water was bigger than we are. And we got out of slavery, they were more powerful than we were. Then it goes on, and it says this, in verse 32, it says, and they spread among the Israelites a bad report about the land that they had explored. Now, you know this too, you've seen this. Bad news spreads so fast. Good news, it's almost like resist. You almost have to resist the bad news to get good news out, you know? And this bad news spread all over the Israelite people. And then it goes on, it says this. So they said this. They said, the land that we explored devours those living in it. And all the people we saw, they were of great size, Robin. We saw the Nephilim there, right? I love this. We seem like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them. Now, this is the part that I wanted to like pause and like lean into, right? He's not wrong. You guys ever heard of Muggsy Bogues? Anybody know Muggsy Bogues? I know you have, right? Muggsy Bogues. Muggsy Bogues played in the NBA. I think he was about like this tall. You know what I mean? Like he was like this. I got to watch him play when I was a kid. And you have, like I joked about Shaq, but like there's these guys that are like 7 feet out there, and Muggsy Bogues is so fast, but when he stands next to these people, you look and you go, who do you know that got you in the NBA? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like we saw a Braves game this year and Shohei Ohtani was playing, which I didn't know was going to be there. So also one of the greatest days of my life. He hit a home run. We won't talk about that. So we got there and there was like the Braves like second baseman standing next to him. Braves second baseman, I think at the time was like 5'8", 5'9", and Shohei's Nephilim. I mean, he's pretty much like that. You know, he's like, he just looks like that. And you look at this and you go like, I totally get it. None of this is wrong. You can feel like a grasshopper. The part that's so fascinating about this text is that in our own eyes and in their own eyes, they're right. All of these things are facts. And you see these facts through faith or through fear, right? I would have said this way. The goal at this moment, right, wasn't to decide whether to go in. That's not what this is happening. It was to discover how good God's promise really was. And the second thing is this, the land was already given to them. The scouting trip was simply meant to inspire faith, not to incite fear. And I said this already, but we'll say it one more time just so that we're all clear. Because God has already shown himself powerful on their behalf because of those things. He's already shown himself powerful. And if you read this story coming in context, you know this. I get so judgy of them. Like I read some of this story to Henry recently, and I realized how judgy I was, and also how much of this is me, over and over and over again. That you can look at the same group of facts and the same things, and you can look at all of this, and you could go, there's fear, or there's faith, and it's not mustered up faith. It's faith in a God who does this. And one of the most primary basic things about Christianity is, do you believe that God does miraculous things? Because this is based on Jesus died and he rose from the dead. And if he rose from the dead, God can do any and all of it. He's all powerful. So chapter 14 comes around, it rolls around. This is the very next verse. Here's what it says. It says, so that night, all the members of the community, all of these people, having heard the bad report, Caleb's trying to push back against it, raised their voices and they wept aloud. They wept aloud. And then it goes on and it says this in verse 2. So all the Israelites grumbled against Moses and Aaron, who were these two sort of point leaders at the time. And the whole assembly said to them, if only we had died in Egypt or in this wilderness. And then they said this, it's so powerful. He said, why is the Lord bringing us to this land only to let us fall by the sword? Our wives and our children will be taken as plunder. Hey, come on, this is, good night, sweetheart. Hope you sleep well. Like, this is one of those passages of scripture that's so thick because it's so human. Because they could only see what they could see. And what they're actually saying is this, that God isn't going to come through on his promise. That God isn't going to protect us. And ultimately, God isn't faithful. And can I just pause right here, right? I don't think there's a whole group of people coming to plunder you and your family and take all of your resources. I don't think that. I hope not. It'd be a really bad day. But you absolutely, and I absolutely have situations and moments where I look out like God isn't going to come through on his promise to me. Or you do this, and this is what I do. Intellectuals in the room, you like this. Or I talk myself out of the promise that I felt like God gave me, because it wasn't happening fast enough. I was unwilling to wait. Some of you, you've been holding a promise for a long time. You just hold it. You hold it loosely and open-handedly. And then over time, you just do this. And in the waiting, come on, you know this. You have talked yourself out of the promise that God already given you. And it feels like it either wasn't a promise or he's not going to come through on it. God isn't going to protect us. I've told you this before. I didn't know really the depths of my faith until I had kids. And then when I had kids, I was like, I can't protect them all the time. I think I told you this. So I dropped off Henry the first day of kindergarten. Who said the thing about the loops? Was that you, Andy? I think Andy said that with the roundabout. There were 2 roundabouts and the school's in the middle. And I just did laps for like an hour and a half. And it wasn't because I was cute. I was just waiting if I had to get out of the car. Now, what was I going to do? I don't know. I mean, you look at me, you go, I don't think. Now, if it was Rob, again, we're just going to keep calling out Robin. I would have had Robin with me. We'd have done it. But I was like, I'm making loops just in case something happened because I was afraid. I was afraid because my son is over there and I'm here and I can't do anything, That God won't protect us, God won't protect me, God won't protect what matters most. And then ultimately, God isn't faithful. And again, you probably don't say this out loud. This is not how you end most of your prayers, but most of us probably doubt that in a deep way at times. That God isn't actually faithful in what he said he would be faithful in. And this is the message that gets sent all over the Israelite camp, all these tribes. And then they go on and they say this. They say, wouldn't it be better for us to go back to Egypt, to slavery, where at least we felt like we had some semblance of control? And they said to each other, we should choose a leader and go back to Egypt. I love it. That we should regain control so that we feel it. We should go back to what feels safer than the uncertainty. Because I just don't know that God is faithful. We might have said it this way. Or we should take things in our own hands and go back to where we came from. And can I tell you this, right? Those of you followers of Jesus in the room, this is a temptation of most every person, and we just call it striving. This is when you grab hold of the wheel and like, hold on, appreciate you being here, God. I feel like I'm referencing Carrie Underwood, and I don't even mean to. I feel like that's where we're going right now. It's not even working well for me. I'm like, it was unintentional. And also great metaphor, like, this is mine. I will control this. I trust me more than you, even though I shouldn't, right? And so in the midst of these 12, there were two. There were Caleb and there were Joshua. We saw all the exact same things. All of the exact same things. And this is their response, and it's so different. Verse 7 says it like this, it's so different. They said, look, the land that we passed through and explored, can we say this together? Passed through and explored is exceedingly good. It's not just good, it's beyond good. It's not just beyond good, it is what he promised. This is the thing that he promised. And if the Lord is pleased with us, he will lead us into that land, a land flowing with milk and honey, and he will give it to us. And then he gives the warning. You ready? And here's the warning. Looks at all these people. They've already decided to get other leaders. We're going back into slavery because we want control. And he looks at all of them and he says this, only do not rebel against the Lord. And do not be afraid of the people of the land because we will devour them. Their protection is gone, but God, or the Lord is with us. Do not be afraid of them. And in this moment, what we find in the story, you should read the rest of it. It's so powerful. He gives this massive warning. And the warning is if we stay faithful and if we trust him and if we move forward with his power and his presence, what was promised to us will be ours if we do that. Now, don't miss this. And they did not. And many of you know the story, and many of you know what happens next. God responds, and God's response is one of correction, which no one likes to talk about. Right? No one likes to talk about it. Everybody likes to feel good, and then everything worked. They were like dancing over in the land, and look at that. It even had, it had Raising Cane's. It was phenomenal. You know what I mean? It was a great thing. They were all Ohio State, like all the things. It was great. I love that, yeah. And none of that. What God says, and don't miss this, in response to their lack of faithfulness and faith, is that you will die, but the next generation will inherit what I promised. And Joshua and Caleb would go with that group. And this is the part of the Bible that you're like, if I could just Thomas Jefferson this. I think it's Thomas Jefferson. Like, let me make my own thing, This would be one of those things because it's not settling. It doesn't feel great. It's like, wait, there are consequences. There sometimes are. Like, there are times we don't experience God's best because what we've done is said, I want to be God. That we have not listened. We have not been faithful. We have Carrie Underwood did the thing. We've done all of those things and we've said, my way. But God, out of fear, I will not trust you. The promise isn't destroyed, it's delayed, and it moves forward. Now, I want to show you this, and then we're going to wrap up in a second. Hundreds of years later, this story gets told and retold and told and retold, and there's a songwriter who writes about it. And he writes about it as a warning in Psalms. And here's what it says. I love this. It says this in Psalms 95. It says, come, let us bow down and worship, or find ourselves fully submitted to him. Let us kneel before the Lord our Maker, which again, posture of your greatness. I'm coming under you. I'm coming under your leadership. Stand before the Lord our Maker, for he is our God, and we are the people of his pasture, the flock under his care. Now again, you don't have sheep, I don't think, most of us, right? But I'd say this, he is the shepherd guiding us. I am going to follow him. And then here's the warning. Here's what it says. It says, today, right? Today, if only you would hear his voice, do not harden your hearts as you did at Meribah, which is a callback to the story. As you did that day at Massa in the wilderness, where your ancestors tested me. They tried me, though they had, don't miss this, though they had seen what I did. That they had all the evidence of the goodness and the faithfulness and the powerful work of God. They had all of it, and in the midst of that, don't miss this, said, I want to take hold of it myself, and it brought about the fear that led them away. And they missed it. So here's the two commitments that I'd say, like, if I could convince every person who's a follower of Jesus, it would be these two things. That's this. I'm going to choose to see through eyes of faith, and I will remain faithful. Which means, and can I just say this, for most of us, not all of us, for most of us, this is like pushing a big old heavy rock up a hill. It is a resistance mentality to say, all of this, I'm going to push this rock up a hill. I'm going to resist the cynic. I'm going to resist the parts of me that won't see life through faith. I will resist the parts of me that make me a practical atheist, even though I believe. That I will resist those things. I will push this, and I will resist it, right? I put in my notes these sort of statements around this, and that says, where are you in your life a practical cynic towards what God might do, right? Where have you convinced yourself that he won't come through, he is not faithful, he is not those things? Where are you a practical cynic, right? Now, the second one I almost didn't put in here. And I'll just say, the reason I almost didn't put it in here, because this gets twisted and weirdly twisted, but I want to say it, and the older I get, the more I believe it, right? And that says, I think you have to speak life, not limitation. Like, actually say things that are life-giving, not limitation. Here's what I mean by this. You ready? I don't know how to say it. I'll give you a business version of this, and I'll give you, like, the spiritual side of this. The business version of this, Jim Collins talks about this, where he goes, like, the best leaders, they look at all the facts brutally and choose to be optimistic no matter what the facts say, right? This is a mindset of leaders. He calls it the Stockdale paradox. You just choose optimism in the midst of it. So there's this side. The spiritual side of this is going, and also, the God of the universe gets involved in things still. That I will choose faith, not because of my own whatever, but because look at what he can do. And so when I'm going to choose to speak life. Now, this has not come natural to me at all. I always feel a little bit weird around this. I always feel like, is it word of faith? Is it, if I speak it, is it coming to it? I tried that with the Braves this year, and they sucked. You know what I mean? Like, I know it doesn't work. So I know it doesn't work like that. But I'll just tell you this. What it does for sure. Can I tell you what I know it does for sure? It reorients your vision on what it should be focused on, which is not you. It is him. It is him. And when you do that, it changes everything about where your focus and where you end up. The third one is this: if you're a follower of Jesus, you can expect God not to move, or you can expect him to move. You actually control that. You can. Now, all your life experience may go, it feels like he's not gonna, and what if he does it? All those things are true. And also, you can choose to expect God to move or not. And then the last thing, we're gonna wrap up in a second, is this: that you consistently pray, God, help me to see as you see. Help me to see as you see. And the two commandments are this: I will see through eyes of faith, and I will remain faithful. Now, where I'm gonna wrap up today is this. And I'm gonna ask the band to come on up. We're gonna wrap up in a second. Is this. Years ago, I grew up in a home, single parent home. It was always me and my mom. My mom was this to a T. She was this week. My mom ended up in the hospital for a minute this week. She's totally fine. She's totally fine now. But she ended up in the hospital this week. And even in that, she's just this person. She just chooses this. She's a person who created her own business and then got cancer, lost everything. So we went from big house, suburbs, the whole, everything was great. Lincoln Town Car in the 90s, you know what I'm talking about? That's what we were sporting. It's like a boat, you know what I mean? It's like a boat. We went from this, and I miss this, and then, within a year and a half after she got sick, we lost everything. And our church was putting us up in a house that they had for missionaries. And even in the midst of all of that, she she just chose a mindset of faith. And it was, she played piano, so that's what she did. She taught people how to play piano. She played old hymns all the time, right? This is her thing. And it was a song that I would walk in to the house with her playing, right? And I would go, and I worked early on because of some of the stuff that was going on, and I'd come home kind of later on after school and after working, and she'd be at this piano during the season of life. And she'd play a song. The song she played was "'Tis So Sweet to Trust in Jesus." Yeah. And I heard it as a kid, but I remember the night that I walked in, I kind of snuck in. I heard her playing the song. And I'm in the back. I was just kind of at the door because we were in this tiny apartment, but it had like this wall. She couldn't see me. And she's singing it as a prayer. And it said, "'Tis so sweet to trust in Jesus." And then it said this, "just to take him at his word." I think that was the part that I went, I think the older that I get, the more that line in particular becomes so powerful, is that I get to trust in his character and who he is, and that when he says it, he has said it. And I can trust in those things. And so I'll say this. Some of you in the room, and I know this, you going like, when you hear something like this, you go like, here's the amount of uncertainty, pain, things that contribute to whatever the fear thing is in your heart and your life. Can I just say this real quick? All of that is true. Follower of Jesus, agnostic, atheist, whatever that bucket is all true. But Christianity also would teach this, that in the midst of all of those things, here is a God who not only has the power to interrupt all of that in an instant, who not only has the power to move you into whatever he's promised that he would, but he also wants to be close to you as a father. And when you view Christianity through that lens, and again, I get all the skepticism. This is what I get on agnostic atheist message boards for fun. It is weird. I know it, but like I get all of that. What I would say to you though is, if that statement is true, then everything in this bucket would be viewed in light of who he is first. And so if you're here and you're not a follower of Jesus, what I would love for you to do, and I say this all the time, is not just pray a prayer. I'd love for you to investigate what this bucket means, because you're already an expert in this one. Investigate what this bucket means and then go, is this true? And if it's true, how do I change my lens to see everything in my life through faith? How do I see faith? And if you're here and you're a follower of Jesus, and I say this, and you've become numb to that truth, some of you need to reinvestigate in your own mind and your own heart why this bucket, why you've allowed this bucket to get so much bigger than your faith-filled bucket. Because the temptation for every follower of Jesus is to be exactly what the Israelites were in these moments. To see all of the faithfulness of God and miss it. And miss it because they were striving on their own. So I'm going to ask you this, if you would. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes for a second, bow your heads. I'm going to pray for us. Then we're going to wrap up. If you're here and you're not a follower of Jesus, I would love for you to do this, right? I'd love for you just to go, what is the reason or reasons or set of reasons that you have decided not to be a follower of Jesus? And can I just say this? Whatever those reasons are, they are good, they are great. You might even be right. I think you're wrong, but I think you might even be right? But if you don't know why beyond the first or second or third layer, I would love for you to go, I want to know the next 10. Become an expert in why you don't believe those things. And here's what I believe. When you look at both sides of those arguments, very intelligent people, very smart people over history have gone, I've seen all the layers, and I've come to the conclusion that at the base of all of those layers is a foundation of faith. And when you get there, then you get to build from there and go, is it Jesus? I love for you to do that work. And if you're here and you're a follower of Jesus, I'd go, where are the moments that you've distanced yourself from those things and that you just need to reorient your life and your mind around a faith lens? Let me pray for us. Father, we thank you so much that this is true and that you give us these stories of people who lived a long, long time ago that interacted with you and interacted with the world in very similar ways that we have and that we do. Father, I pray for the person who's in the room, they're not a follower of you, they have all of the fullness of their questions, and all of those are good. God, I just pray that they would bring those things to you and that they would trust you with it as well. And in the midst of it, as much of an expert as they become in one, God, I pray that you would allow them to see you as they process what faith might look like for them. I pray for the person in the room who's been following you for a long time, and they've drifted into some form of just being a practical atheist in these spaces. Father, I ask that you would help them to dream bigger, that you would help them to see more. God, they come to you open-handed, they would trust you in the things that feel impossible. God, that you would show up tangibly and do the things that feel like they're impossible, and you would remind them of the things that you've done over the course of their life already.